today's topic. Last one for the year.
Goddamn year in review. Jesus. Then we got a bonus. Get a little controversial as usual. Okay. Ladies and germs, I am Jay McInnes with the Sharp Real Estate Group. You are tuned into episode 271, the final episode of this magnificent year, 2023. Today we're going to a year in review. It's been such an interesting and tumultuous year, if you will. We're going to dive through a few points here on the highlights of the talking points of this year and what we've all been through together as a family. So this is the end of season 6. Al, you know this gets transformed into podcasts, right? This is the end of season 6 of the podcast, okay? So if you want to listen to these words and not watch my face, then you should probably just tune into the podcast, which can be found anywhere podcasts are available, iTunes and all those other ones. But you should watch the videos because it's more entertaining. At least I would watch the video. So let's start today. We're gonna jump in. There was a lot of topics, obviously, we went through this year. We're trying to keep these under 20 minutes as usual. We have failed miserably to do any less than that, so we're not even gonna try anymore. But the first point of 7 points plus a bonus that we'll get to at the end are, of course, number one, the rates and inflation. So what have we seen? We've seen total CPI this year jump down from 5.9, CPI, Consumer Price Index, as we all know, 5.9% to 3.1. So you're almost in those twos, which was the desired end result. I'm surprised. Again, I don't trust the basket, but I'm surprised this has been a consistent metric. As far as I could research, the basket of goods, basket of whatever they want to measure, those measurement sticks are quite convoluted. In my opinion, maybe that's just because I'm not an economist and don't understand them to the depth that I guess you need to. But anyway, I believe from all my research, the basket of goods has not changed in this timeline. So it is a reference point, obviously favoring government narratives. But besides that, we're not going to go down that road yet. It has gone down. It's actually gone down a lot quicker than I thought it would. Remember, we peaked June 2022 at 8.1% inflation. So we are well on our way down into those twos, which is still ridiculous and is not what anyone needs if you look into it far enough, but that's the goal and we're getting there, so that's positive. It's gonna be a positive one today, Al. We're gonna try and shoo the negativity out the door, little to no government talk, so on and so forth. Now on the interest rate side, I'm not touching today on the bond yields, which dictates the fixed rates because that is dropping as well, which is good. But the total policy rates, bank rates, overnight rates, whatever you want to call them, the meetings that they do where Tiff Macklem sits down and says, this is what we're doing with the rates today, which our variable rates are based off of, which has been really the focal point here of his direction moving forward, because he's selectively picking these numbers, has gone from 4.25% January 1st all the way up to 5, where we have now paused. That's been 8 meetings in January, and of those 8 meetings, 3 have been increased. Obviously, the front end of the year have been the 3 increases, and then we have paused for the duration. So I do believe rates will be beginning to come down. I think personally, end of Q2, Q3 is when they will do so. Who knows? That's all pie in the sky stuff right now, but that's what's happened with inflation. It's well down, as our English counterparts would say. It is well down. And interest rates are well up. But again, I think this is the year that we're gonna start seeing down. As you've seen, depending how much depth you look into this, you've seen the Fed down, our southern friends, looking rather a dovish sentiment, they say. So it sounds like they're going to continue to pause and then start reducing next year as well. So as we've seen a lot of stock market rally and that sort of stuff based around this as well. A little crypto rally as well there, Al, if you didn't pay attention to that. You gotta pay attention to all parts here. So anyway, it's been interesting and I think that will continue. Point number 2, the blanket zoning of Vancouver. So what has this been? This is density going with the narrative that further density is all that's needed. Further density is what we're going to do to make real estate cheaper is the narrative they're going with. And that's been the driving point specifically behind this. Specifically in October, the missing middle housing plan that we talked about, which is bringing density to all lots. The new R1-1 zone in place of all single family zoned RS zone properties or lots is what's now come into effect. So there's essentially no more single family exclusivity. The NIMBY in me has a tear holding back. But so that's gone, and the density now rules all. So we've got we've got two aspects of it here. The first one here, obviously this missing middle. So what that does, 33-foot lot, you have 3 to 4 units applicable. 44-foot lot, 3 to 5 units. 50-foot lot, 4 to 6 units. And if it's exclusively a rental development, which you are also getting a 5% GST lift from, you will get as high as 8 units, rental units exclusively on a 50-foot. So you're gonna see this popping up. The problem, there's a variety of problems I have with this, that's not what we're focusing on today. Other than, I think the biggest one is going to be the NIMBY problem is the neighborhoods are going to change. There's going to be a lot more density, a lot more people, and I don't like change. That I understand. The biggest one I think that people are being a little, at City Hall specifically, are being a little short-sighted about is the parking. We do not yet have a London, Al, give me some, what is it, Germany, where they use bikes a lot. We're not Amsterdam. We don't have people just jumping to bikes because they can't afford housing, and meaning they're going to take housing without parking. I don't think we're going to see that. Obviously, we've got bike lanes and all that starting to continue to spread. I think they are trying to do that, but I don't think we're at that step yet. So I think the biggest issue with that level of density is going to be the parking. Number 3, we continue on the density train here with a recently approved transit-oriented density, which is the TOD plan. TOD is expected to produce approximately 10,000 additional units in the next 10 years. So what does that mean? 800-meter radius of a rapid transit station, so a SkyTrain or a subway stop, or 400 meters of a bus exchange, a bus stop. So SkyTrain, 0 to 200 meter radius out, you can do 20 stories. 201 to 400 meters out, you can do 12 stories. 401 to 800 meters out, you can do 8 stories. So the density pack around the SkyTrain stations, for example, is what we're now going to see. And we talked about that, I think 2 weeks ago or 2 videos ago with once those start to take place, that is going to push that land value up once they have things to bench it against, to benchmark for taxation purposes. So you're really going to see those property taxes increase as they saw down the Cambie corridor. The argument is this, is boohoo, you pay more taxes, but your property's worth more, of course, but that's just a knock-on effect that those single family people are going to be dealing with. And then again, bus exchange, 0 to 200 meters out, 12 stories, and 201 to 400 meters out, 8 stories. So 2023 is all about density and restriction. So it's a bit out and a bit in. Number 4, the Airbnb tightening from the provincial level. Now, we saw a lot of these restrictions already in the Vancouver level. Again, this whole housing crisis narrative playing out. They've attacked it from all angles. I'm not going into, because it's years prior, the vacancy tax, the speculation tax, and all that sort of stuff, which is attacking that as well. But the Airbnb, so a lot of these were already implemented specifically in the city of Vancouver, which is obviously traditionally what we talk about here. But restriction back to principal residence, of course, you can't just run a hotel room, have a bunch of rentals yourself that you're subleasing out as Airbnb, or own the units and renting them out exclusively in Airbnb any longer. Some stratas would turn a blind eye to that, but apparently now there's no more. So it has to be your principal residence, and if you're in a home with a suite or a laneway, can be one of those additionally. Also, they've put in place, obviously you needed a business license already, they've put in place the provincial registry, so another bureaucratic layer to cross-reference. They have direct access to Airbnb's database and VRBO and all that, so they can cross-check and cross-examine who's doing it if they need to look into people. And the max fine increased from $2,000 to a whopping 50 G's, Al. Can you believe it? Obviously you can. Number 5, tax increases for developers. Again, all of these are simply, as I've stated all the way along, making real estate more expensive for the end user under the guise of, let us, the government, help you, we will make it better. We've all seen that continue to play out through the news at bare minimum over the last year. But tax increases for developers. So we've seen that development community charge, the DCCs. Again, there are many layers of taxes that we've gone through that the cities are charging developers, making it more expensive for you. That kind of contrarian, we say one thing and the hand does the other, approach that the government is taking. They still need their money. So on all the local amenities, on their social housing narratives, where do they get this money from? They get them from the developers, which are building your end user homes and charging you the difference. So those prices have tripled this year. We've come out and seen local mayors and so forth basically call this laughable, that in one hand they're saying we need it and are doing our best to create a more affordable housing environment, not affordable housing, but a more affordable real estate environment. And then on the other, they are pushing forward massive tax increases. So again, the DCCs in this specific circumstance have been tripled this year. So that's Lower Mainland wide, so all neighborhoods. But you just start to see again, every time they get involved, they only have so many levers they can pull. Again, what's happening with the economy? Is it too hot? Is it too slow? What can we do? We can pull the lever of interest rates. What can the local governments, the provincial governments do? Taxation. So really, when we're asking them to do things, they can add red tape and they can add taxation. And I'm now narrative building again back to the good old days of shitting on the government, but that is just what it comes down to. So that's that. That's number 5, and that's the end of the negativity. So number 6 is the one thing they have done, which was highlighted again when Christopher Freeland was getting grilled a couple weeks ago, was the FHSA, the First Home Savings Account. So this is great because it's a blend of your tax-free savings account as well as your RSP plan. From a taxation perspective, right off the money going in. It's not a taxable event pulling money out. You do not have to repay this plan. You basically have to be a Canadian, you have to be a first-time home buyer. Once you open it, it has to be used and closed within 15 years. The problem, however, is it's just come out this year and the max contribution is only $8,000. So it is a good plan, but it's one of those things where it needs time to build. You put the $8,000 in, if you can afford to do so, contribution will roll forward, put the $8,000 in. Obviously, you're investing that in the market. Hopefully, you're not gambling too degenerately, and you keep it growing. And then in a handful of years, you've got that thing. But again, like the other plans, you can't start it until you're 18. So I can't go and start one now for my kids. So by the time they actually want to do something at the front end of life, it can't be started until they're 18. So kind of stupid. If parents can have the financial flexibility to do that and contribute to that, I think they should. Obviously, there's other options. But anyway, it is a good thing. So that is number 6. Number 7 is the market trend. So what has the market actually done over this year? We talk about all the nuances of what's happening from the government, from the city, and all that sort of stuff, and obviously give our monthly updates. But what has the market done in the year? So 1-year sales volume, basically we've seen, specifically in the west side, detached houses, minus 4.8%, attached, minus 10.6%, apartments, minus 20%. Year over year. So the sales volume is dramatically down on all categories year over year. Why is that? People aren't selling, they aren't choosing to enter their listings in the market, or they're simply not getting what they want and they can afford to hold it off, so things aren't turning over. Greater Vancouver wise, sales volume at large is down 13%. So it's not just a west side thing where the prices are more elevated, it is Greater Vancouver wide. So year over year, sales down 13% this year. Listing volume, detached on the west side down 18.6%, attached down 2.5%, and apartments down 8.2%. So same thing, listing volume is down, people not putting them out, people not, and that's all listings out, that's not just active and sold. That went sold, that's all listings that went out. So a lot of people did try and didn't achieve what they wanted to and pulled it back. Greater Vancouver listing numbers down 7.5% all in. So again, all numbers diluted. So what have we seen here? We've seen the density amplified. Of course, the density isn't being used yet because interest rates are too high and builders just are simply not building. It doesn't make sense right now, so they are waiting and holding. Yes, the CPI has come down. Obviously, we all know the interest rates have gone up. The density has been maximized. Now, density maximizing has come as of late, to be fair. October and November were the real pushes to get those approved. Airbnb further tightening, again, more restriction there. Further taxation, more restriction there. The first time savings account, not gonna affect anything today. That's later on down the line, but a good starting point for people. So what has happened? What has happened to the benchmark prices? 1 year home price index benchmark prices on the west side, detached up 9.8%, townhomes up 2.9%, and apartments up 4.5%. So the more restriction, the more dictatorial activity from the top is simply making it more expensive. Sales are down, listings are down, taxes are up, density availability is up, prices on all fronts are all up. So asking the government for help will simply cost you more money, and waiting to purchase will simply cost you more money. We are proven yet again. And just for those west side numbers, detached index 3.468 million for the average, townhome 1.460 million, and condo $8.42 million. And I do believe pricing will pick up next year when interest rates begin to soften, is my crystal ball. Now, number 8, on top of all of this, we're going back to the government again now. We have the forever consistent layer of immigration. So we can highlight why is the market doing what it's doing? Why is there so much demand? Why are the issues that are being talked about as issues so predominant? And if all those things are issues and we do have affordability issues, why are we adding more kindling to the fire, Al? Kindling is what we're calling the new Canadians today. So January to September, we have entered 371,000 new Canadians. That is not including our beloved, it's been obviously or additionally hotly contested student visa participants, because those numbers are financially too large for the government to turn away, so they have not capped that. And we are at 371, which is 80% of it's not my government. The current government's $465,000 person intake target. So we're at 80%. We've got 371,000 new Canadians in so far. We've still got, that's as of September, so I don't have the most up-to-date lagging indicator here, lagging number, but they're getting there. Nothing like last year's, what was it, 1.2, but consistent, they're wanting that 500,000, so obviously if they get their mark, that's 465, and clearly there's no shortage of people wanting to come here. You see stuff in the news every once in a while, new Canadians come in, they can't afford anything, they leave. I don't know if they go back to where they came from, I don't know if they get another stamp somewhere else, I don't know those details, but I don't know how common that is either. My guess is it's very cherry-picked information. But anyway, on top of all of this, hi, I'm the government, I want everything to be cheaper and I'm doing it for you, we just add more people in. What is that gonna do? What is that gonna do? So that's it. I will leave it at that. That is the 2023 year in the rear view. Year in review.
That's that you
Episode 271. So thank you all for your time and attention and views and comments and likes and subscribes this year. I thoroughly appreciate it. I will be back next year. We're gonna have some changes next year. So we'll be seeing those at the early front end of the year in just a couple weeks. I hope you do all enjoy your whatever holidays you're celebrating. I'm not allowed to say Merry Christmas anymore, naturally. So I will have a Merry Christmas. And if that's something you like or you do something similar, I do hope you enjoy it naturally. Season 7 of the podcast will start in January. Episode 272 will pick up in January. I do thank you again for all of the love. And I will see you in the Vancouver real estate market next year. Bye for now.